What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with another tune from the soundtrack to Nobunaga Concerto, a J-drama from 2013 starring the one and only Oguri Shun, seen smiling here. You may know I have begun a watch-along of this over on my Patreon. I've only done one episode so far, and I've been meaning to get back to it, and indeed, by this time tomorrow, I'm aiming to do the next installment, maybe a double episode, because I really do want to get back into the show. My experience of it was that it's so fun. It's a historical period piece, but it's got a bit of sci-fi and reality plus. It's got a lot of comedy, some sweet emotional moments, some romance. It just really is everything. It's fantastic. Michaela knows of what I speak. And indeed, shout out to all the folks who checked out my J-drama watch-alongs. They are something which I have enjoyed for a long time, and it's fun to go through them on Patreon. And indeed, there's a number of folks who in the last year or so have started following some of the earlier J-drama watch-alongs, but who have not yet commented. So I do encourage you, please do comment if you feel so compelled. In any case, we're returning to this soundtrack, which is produced by and composed by Taku Takahashi, and in fact I use the word produce because he's the producer for a Japanese hip-hop group called M-Flow. He's the one who makes the beats and the music, and they have a lot of electronic sounds in addition to, rapping and so on. And they used to be a three-piece. I think currently they're a duo. It's Taku Takahashi, and I forget the guy's name, but the current rapper in the group. There used to be a female vocalist as well, but I think she left nearly 20 years ago now. In any case, as I've also said, Taku Takahashi also did the soundtrack to Antiquarian Bookshop Biblia, and I think there's a lot of similarities in these two soundtracks because both of them have a lot of dance tunes with electronic sounds and so on. Nevertheless, we are going to listen to a more score-type piece from Nobunaga Concerto here, and it's the title track. It's just called Nobunaga Concerto, and indeed, it's a piece you hear every episode, and usually when there's some moral warmth and or inspiration, something profound, when the lead character, Nobunaga, although that is a bit complicated and it's not really spoiling anything because it's something that you learn right near the beginning of the first episode, there's a character from the present, played by Oguri Shun, who somehow gets transported back into the 16th century, and he looks just like the real historical Nobunaga Oda, or Oda Nobunaga, and as a result, he ends up switching places with him. So, yes, when the character from the future or from our present learns something or gets people to follow him, or, some people actually feel inspired by what he's doing, you will often hear this tune. So, yeah, it has a score type feel, definitely with a, Japanese, East Asian vibe to the sonics, and it is used in moments that are sort of, inspiring and emotional. So let's give it a listen. This is from the Nobunaga Concerto soundtrack, 2013, composed by Taku Takahashi. It is a track that is literally just called Nobunaga Concerto. lovely. It really is lovely. And again, like it's sort of this musical soul of the show, if that makes sense, which indeed makes sense given that they titled this or made this the title track. And again, a lot of the soundtrack has sort of energy and it sounds more modern than you might think, given that most of the story takes place in the 16th century during the Warring States era of Japan when, feudal lords or daimyo were often making and breaking alliances and trying to have the most influence they could, and ultimately, if you know Japanese history, you might be aware Oda Nobunaga is considered one of the three great unifiers in Japanese history, but the process by which that happened was anything but simple, and that is very much reflected in the show, which features a lot of historical figures, and of course, their personalities and their words and behavior, it's up for debate how reflective they are, and of course that's true, in any history. Like, as a historian, I can tell you, the past is a foreign country, as they say. We don't live there, we don't know it. The best we can do is use written records and artifactual, archaeological elements and like oral traditions and so on to try to get a good understanding, to try to paint a picture that is reasonably reflective or approximating as we think of the past. Nevertheless, this adds a layer on top of that because there's this, time traveling element to it and there's a lot of comedy and so on. But again, it's the story of the emergence of what we now call like modern Japan. And again, Oguri Shun, arguably my favorite actor, he's so good in this double role. So yeah, as I said, it's awesome. I'm looking forward to going through the full show. Thank you again to Michaela, not only for watching, but she actually helped me get the movie that follows the show, which, the end of the show is cool, but it's definitely a cliffhanger, so it's great that we will also have the movie to go through. Shout out also to Dawn, who's been following all the J-drama watch-alongs, as well as some others who've commented and watched, like Kim and Yvonne, and even Solo has shown up, and as I mentioned, I do think there's some others who have been following, because there's a few who've started following my Patreon and whose names are written in like kanji. So again, maybe they're not commenting because they don't like write in English. So either way, I'm just excited that people have taken an interest, and this show is definitely one to follow along. So as I said, by this time tomorrow, I'm going to do the next installment. Maybe just one episode, but I'm really hoping to do two. So keep an eye out for that. Let me know what you think here, and I will see you then. Peace.